Hello everybody and welcome to part 2 of my Persona 5 Royal Confidant ranking. If you missed part 1, be sure to catch up beforehand via the link in the description. Without further ado, let's jump right into the top 10 best confidants in Persona 5 Royal. Number 10, on Takamaki, the Lover's Arcana. Quickly ascending up the quality scale, we reach the waifu of choice for many jokers out there. The appeal is easy to see, a professional model with a fiery personality to back her appearance. Similar to Ryuji, whether the smoke she blows is valid will vary based on perspective. Much of her significance comes from her place in the first major arc. Putting up with harassment from the antagonist in a misguided attempt to help her friend Shiho, her path to vengeance after a tragic turn of events is very compelling. Her confidant quest revolving around her desire to improve as a person is great as well, with a solid mixture of goofiness, yet development and understanding of her character. The only knock I have is how much her later development is pinned on what happened to Shiho. It becomes hard to distinguish what An wants for An and what An thinks Shiho would want for An. And if you want to take the romance options into account for Joker at all seriously, it's hard to invest in a character who is so uncertain of who she is. Between that and her occasional Ryuji-like tantrums, I hold her in a bit lower regard than most, even if she is worth a top 10 confidant spot. Number 9, Hifumi Togo, the star. When talking about romance options in Persona 5, Hifumi easily had the potential to be the best. I tend to find romance in this game lacking, and a big reason for that is lack of development. An is a great example of this. She'll spend her entire quest talking about improvements to herself and Shiho while you silently sit there for the majority of it, giving rare advice and encouragement. At the critical moment when she faces Shiho and they both harden their resolve to continue growing for themselves, An suddenly confesses her love for you as long as you do it first. It felt so poorly timed and out of the blue. Hifumi is one of the few where it actually feels organic. You meet with a supposed shogi prodigy for lessons to improve your strategic prowess. These matches let Hifumi's personality shine as she lets her real self out in full force. As these tense games let you learn a bit about how each other thinks, she starts confiding issues with her family and her own self-esteem with you. She invites you out to different locales and what could easily be considered dates to discuss tactics and your lives together. You ultimately work together with her to improve her life situation in exchange for her tutoring, with Joker's involvement feeling personal and invested, with Hifumi's investment in you beyond a mere tutor becoming more and more obvious as your meetups continue. Her only notable flaw is her inability to take part in the grander narrative, giving her less significant screen time. From my understanding, she was originally planned to be a party member, but was cut due to time. If she had been fully integrated into the game, I'd likely be making an argument for top 3 honors. Unfortunately, as a sidelined character that doesn't get much dialogue beyond her confidant quest, she's at a disadvantage compared to the more involved peers. Even so, her family background makes her story incredibly compelling, and her quiet but charming personality makes her an excellent match for Joker. Number 8, Takemi, the Death Arcana. Or you could have the doc step on you with her stilettos if the mood strikes. Takemi has a soft spot in my heart for being the first confidant I maxed out. I'm sure it was the same for a lot of you due to her early availability. It's not just accessibility though, her story is one of the best of any confidant. A doctor dismissed from a corrupt medical system before she could finish a medicine key to a young girl's survival has gone into hiding. Practicing medicine out in the boonies and enlisting Joker's help to be a guinea pig to trial the cure for the girl, you gradually learn more about her honorable motives as these tests continue. Despite heavy pushback from the corrupt doctor who spurned her initially, she trucks through, finishes the cure, and saves the girl. Not only that, but her hard exterior is softened by Joker. She becomes appreciated by the locals as a doctor they can trust. Her arc starts in a sad, lonely place, and thanks to your intervention, she gets a new lease on life as a doctor who can help hundreds of people. It's a wonderful conclusion to her story, but like Hifumi, she does lose some significance due to playing outside of the main narrative. That and her medicine perks aren't terribly useful beyond early game thanks to how many items the game showers you with. Still, her story gets me every time, and I'll always be a fan of her hometown healthcare. Number 7, Sainishima, the Judgment Arcana. After mentioning a few confidants that miss out on a key piece of the main narrative pie, Sai is the exact opposite. You never interact with her outside the main story, and yet her significance in the time she receives in the spotlight is well worth placing this high on the list. Serving as the stern glue that ties arcs together with her interrogation of Joker, she gradually warms up to the Phantom Thief as the story unfolds. The twist involving how they go about changing her heart, timed with a big climax in the narrative, gives her actions a heavy punch. It's impressive how quickly an antagonistic force becomes a strong strong ally on your side. I love how her distorted view of justice becomes crystal clear by the end. Her heartfelt gratitude for setting her straight feels genuine, and it makes me feel excited for what she'll accomplish in the future. The strength of her character never wavers and only grows stronger as the story reaches its conclusion. She's well deserving of a high-end nod, even if she isn't my favorite older confidant. Number 6, Sojiro Sakura, the Hierophant. My man Sojiro. This lovable hard-ass with a heart of gold has your back from the moment you arrive in his cafe until the very end. Living in his attic as a troubled youth, your regular interactions with him in and out of his confidant quest line let your relationship develop organically. Initially, his concern for you is more out of saving his own hide and general care for people. Gradually, though, you become more and more endeared to him to the point you feel like a true family in the end. The conflicts you face both on his end and your own are of dire importance to each other, strengthening your bonds as you confide in and help each other. Sojiro never falters to have your back for a single moment despite how far you put him out as a phantom thief. He ultimately supports you in standing up for what is right in society and putting an end to Masayoshi Shido's corrupt reign, especially since it puts to bed a personal vendetta of his own with Wakaba's death. Oh, and the man brews a mean cup of joe with a curry to die for. Culinary arts he teaches you for some of the best early support items. It's not the best perk, but it's made with love, damn it. I don't even drink coffee, but every time he says, "Let me explain," you better believe I'm gonna sit my ass down and read every single word he breathes about those beans. Truly the finest example of older confidants in the game. Well, if it wasn't for real best girl. Number 5, Sadeo Kawakami, the Temperance Arcana. Shagging the teacher in the maid outfit, Joker, you precocious Casanova. The awkwardness of Ryuji, Joker, and Mishima of all people going into an abandoned apartment to use a maid service, only for Mishima and Ryuji to wuss out, leaving Joker to swab his way into the special menu from none other than his homeroom teacher at her moonlighting gig is priceless comedy. What starts as, and well, let's be honest, ends as a star-crossed shit show of a relationship has surprising depth to it. As you continue soliciting Kawakami services, you learn about the predicament that landed her there. Indebted to the relatives of a boy she once taught who died in an accident from overwork, she's pressured to keep paying them to make up for his death. This extortion is eventually stopped by Joker, allowing Kawakami's true passion for teaching and meddling in her students' best interests to fully shine. It's a quest that starts with a devious intent, only to end in a significantly better life for not only Kawakami, but for all the students she will help excel for years to come. And you can also bang her if you want to. Even if you don't choose to rip the maid costume off a teach, she'll happily give you platonic massages to regain valuable time after metaverse romps, do your laundry, cook your curry, make you lockpicks, which is really strange that you don't question that, but it's all for free. Kawakami is truly the greatest homie you'll ever have, and maybe even love her. If she somehow had a persona on top of it all, you'd likely be seeing her at the number 1 spot. For now, our maiden savior will have to settle for top 5 honors. Number 4, Futaba Sakura, the Hermit. Arguably getting the most development of any party member with an entire palace dedicated to her, Futaba quickly goes from an anonymous threat to one of your most important assets. Replacing Morgana as the narrator just as I wanted to punt him out of existence, offering random party boosts to HP, SP, damage, defense and agility, mapping out mementos, consistently bailing out the thieves with her hacking prowess, and most importantly, solidifying your familial bond with Sojiro. Futaba is a fantastic phantom thief and friend, helping her through her social bucket list to get her reintegrated into society after a change of heart is kooky in a way that matches her eccentric nature, but gives a real sense of character progress. Comparing her behavior from her introduction to the endgame is a night and day difference. Like Kawakami, you are able to make a life-changing impact for Futaba, and in turn, Sojiro. She leans on you heavily, but is there for you anytime you need her, as long as the next episode of her favorite anime isn't on. Number 3, Makoto Nijima, the Priestess. Much like her sister, Makoto is driven by a strong sense for justice. Her intense appearance and attitude in the metaverse embodies who she truly is despite the more reserved demeanor she exhibits in her daily life. Watching her growth from someone who is walked on by others to someone who does the stepping is powerful. I do find her confidant quest to be sorely lacking compared to others, since a large focus is around a random student in a black and white conflict with an abusive manslut, but it does at least give Makoto a chance to stand up for her new friend and what she believes is right. Joker tagging along for the ride gives him a decent chance to bond outside of the main party. Her coy way at the end of bringing up looking for a love tutor feels more natural than most of the romances in the game, and she takes the rejection a lot more gracefully than some of the other leading ladies. She feels like a complete character on her own that would be enhanced through a partnership, which makes her one of the game's better romance options, in comparison to someone like An, who is stumbling to find an identity. I love her role as the Phantom Thieves' vocal strategist, and she consistently comes in clutch in the real world when the group needs a crucial action to proceed with with their plan. Ever reliable, admirable, and domineering, Makoto is one of Persona 5's most memorable allies. Number 2, Goro Akechi, the Justice Arcana. I love to hate Akechi. In Persona 5, I kinda just hated him. His betrayal could be seen coming from a mile away, so it felt contrived once it happened and everyone was all Pikachu face. Granted, that was part of their master plan, but the real issue is what followed. You get all his background and development out of the blue at the last minute, everyone suddenly shows pity on him and tries to save him, say he can change, etc., not only after betraying them, but also murdering countless people. Sure, he's a victim, but he's hardly blameless. He's just as bad as any of the other big villains, if not worse in terms of crimes, but he gets a pass from the party? Why? Because he's not some scummy adult? As hypocritical as it may be, it serves to prove Akechi right. The Phantom Thief's sense of justice is subjective, flawed, and in his eyes against what he sees as absolute. Royal adds a ton of characterization to him ahead of time by adding an actual confidant questline that develops a rivalry between him and Joker at a natural pace. Unlike many confidants that serve as effective damsels for you to step in and save in exchange for some neat metaverse perks, Akechi stands up to you as a worthy opponent at every turn, ultimately challenging you to a duel and saying to your face he'll be the one to end you. It makes his coat turn feel more natural, along with the following events. It gives greater gravitas to the end of his arc in the original story, and especially his presence in the royal additions to the narrative. Seeing him fully embrace who he is in spite of how others may view his psychopathic bloodlust is electrifying and terrifying. What originally was disdain for his character became a certain level of respect, even if I disagree wholeheartedly with his actions and ideals. His character receives a fantastic revamp in Royal to the point I can't deny how high he's risen in my eyes. He'd be number 1 if it weren't for my real choice for best girl. And my number 1 best confidant in Persona 5 Royal, Kasumi Yoshizawa, the Faith Arcana. It almost feels like playing into the developer's hands ranking Yoshizawa this highly. From all the marketing, to playing the game itself and being berated by senpais at every turn, having Kasumi shower you regularly in random praise for saying the bare minimum of niceties, getting dedicated moments throughout the original campaign to bond with Joker, an air of mystery to her motivations from the intro saving him with a mention of a promise that turns out to be spending more time with her, even a dedicated romantic showtime with Joker. I felt like they really wanted me to pair Joker and Kasumi together. That said, if it wasn't executed poorly, should I complain? For the most part, I felt it was. Having played the original, Kasumi's moments throughout the original story did stand out, and while I'm a bit miffed that the bulk of her real development is relegated to the endgame, as is her playability in the party, what she has to offer in both of those departments is spectacular. Her story is as tragic as any of the other confidants, but what separates her is how far you get to see her fall from grace into a state of delusion that reshapes the way you view your entire relationship with her. Not only that, it helps validate and give a close-to-home perspective on the villain's motivations in Royal. The two sides of her confidant quest give you a look into her supposed ideal self and then the person she really is. At the end, you finally see her flourish into who she's becoming. A strong character that can stand on her own 2 feet and do acrobatic leaps and bounds to greater heights. Whether you decide to partner up with her or not, I thoroughly enjoyed what Yoshizawa had to offer in every phase of the game, from combat to aesthetic, personality, questline, interactions, hangouts, perks, and being a true role model on how to bounce back from tragedy, even if it takes you time to grieve and find your footing. She's an inspiration, ally to her last, and my personal favorite confidant in Persona 5 Royal. But what about you? Let me know what your favorites and least favorites are in the comments below. Personally, I'm a sucker for character-driven stories, making Persona's confidant system a haven of interaction for me. Even if I have gripes here or there, they collectively play a massive role in shaping up what I love about this masterpiece. Be sure to subscribe to stay tuned for more exciting projects on spring releases like Persona 5 Strikers, Nier Replicant, and Resident Evil 8. Until then, I want to thank you for watching today, much love to you, and I'll see you in the next video.